Welcome back to Totally Unbiased, and you know what it is. Once again, we are back for another video. Today we got Fantasy Friday, the first episode of Fantasy Friday, but I only got one partner today. Aiden, how are we doing today?
What's going on?
All right, so Fantasy Friday. It's our first time doing Fantasy Friday, so little description for you guys, because Andrew usually does the socials. Me and Aiden don't have the socials written down, so let's just we're gonna pretend that we know what they are. Check the description; the socials are in there. But let's kind of jump into this a little bit for Fantasy Friday. I'm real excited. I know Aiden is. We want to talk to you guys about a couple guys. Aiden, kick us off here.
All right, so the first guy I want to talk about, I think a lot of fantasy owners have been very stressed out about this player. It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He was projected for the second round in most leagues, and a lot of people, including myself, took him in late second, early third. And, when somebody gets taken around there, there's a lot of expectations set for them this season. And early on, he's been very disappointing. Week 1, he scored 10 points. Week 2, he scored 2.5, and he had that costly fumble. I want to talk to you about if you think he's still a viable running back for fantasy, because right now, in my opinion, he's going on the bench, and I think he has to stay there until he can prove himself as a running back 2 again.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting thing going on with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Frankly, the offense for the Chiefs, we already know they love to throw the ball, but it kind of shows they have no interest in running the ball. They really don't want to. Through 2 starts, and there's really no competition in that backfield. Through 2 starts, I believe he has 13 and 14 carries respectively. It's a little concerning for me. I don't have the greatest outlook on Clyde.
Yeah, I really can't blame you at all. He's been having a lot of struggles early on, and the receiving volume really isn't there either. So for now, I think you just got to bench him in any league that you're in. But move on to a next player, somebody who I'm a lot more optimistic on is Trey Sermon. The 49ers backfield has just been having injury after injury. Week 1, they lost Mostert. Week 2, they lost a few guys, including Elijah Mitchell. And they're just in this situation where Sermon is their guy. Sermon is their number 1 at this point for week 3. And Nick, I want to know if you think that he is somebody that you throw in that running back 2 spot or in the flex. I think he is. I think the 49ers backfield is very dependable. Kyle Shanahan's play calling is second to none, and I think he's an immediate start.
Yeah, I think you got to start Trey Sermon. A big problem with starting running backs in the Niners backfield, as we've all known, is they're very deep and they use all of them. Now, the problem is they're already down 3 running backs to start the year. Mitchell is down. He is doubtful. JaMycal Hasty is down. He is doubtful. Ankle for Hasty, shoulder for Mitchell. Sermon has been cleared of concussion protocol, and obviously we all know Mostert's out for the year. Realistically, I don't see there being a very big competition for touches in this backfield for him. I do believe they will resort to a lot more of the passing game to keep the Packers honest this week. A defensive front that Sermon might be able to eat up a little bit against. I would start him as a flex. There's not many guys I would start him over. As we just mentioned, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that's an interesting one. I don't know if I would start him over Helaire, but that's a really close, conversation. But I will say, if you have a flex and your flex is kind of a wishy-washy situation, maybe you lost AB to a COVID situation, Josh Jacobs to a knee, whatever it might be, I would consider Trey Sermon. And if you're fortunate enough to still be sitting here with him on your waivers, go grab him. Somebody dropped him in our league this week. I picked him up 5 minutes before the show. That's just how it works. So you kind of got to just be on top of these things with these running backs. And since there's no competition, Sermon has a chance to show out this week.
Yeah, if Sermon is available in your league, you have to go scoop him up immediately. That is a must-do at this point in fantasy. But to move on to the next player that I want to talk about, he's been a little disappointing early on. He was projected early second, even late first for many people. Saquon Barkley. That offensive line is just very questionable every week. You really don't know what they're going to offer him in terms of running lanes. And you also have to wonder, has he fully returned from that ACL injury from last season yet? So there are all these questions surrounding Saquon. He's obviously a generational talent when healthy, but you have to wonder at this point in week 3, is he fully healthy, and can that O-line actually provide him what he needs to be startable in fantasy?
Yeah, so I think he's healthy. I think the knee is stronger than it's ever been. He's at his healthiest point that he's been probably in a long time. His knee is stronger than it's ever been, as strong as it ever will be right now. It's even stronger than the one that has been repaired. But the fact of the matter is, the Giants are kind of holding back on him. They're holding back on, how many touches they give him, what are the opportunities, where they would like him to play. He had a stark increase in snaps. I expect that to happen again. If you are watching this and you have a chance to go trade for Saquon Barkley, do it. Do it. I'm not saying to give up Ezekiel Elliott and somebody else. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you have a guy like Joe Mixon and someone's willing to do a even swap, do it. Do it. Joe Mixon and a guy on your bench or a guy on their bench like a pretty bad wide receiver on your bench, like a bad wide receiver, somebody who won't start for you, do it. Because not for nothing, guys like that, they don't come around very often and they're not usually available at all. And now that McCaffrey is down, there's a lack of star wide receivers. There's a lack of star running backs out there. There is. You have Cook, who's a little beat up. You have Kamara with a bad offense. Derrick Henry's really all we got. So it's really smart if you try to take your stock in a star while you can, while his stock is low, go trade for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, absolutely. He, when healthy and when given the right situation, he can provide on massive levels for fantasy. But another player who, in the right situation, can put up huge numbers, just like he did this week, Marquise Brown. The Ravens were in this shootout with the Chiefs, and Brown benefited from that on a massive level. He put up 20 plus points in fantasy. He's a great deep threat for the Ravens, and his stock just seems to go up every week. So, Nick, tell me what you think about him.
I like Marquise Brown. I don't know why he was so slept on this year. Like, if you look at the end of the year last year, he averaged about 15 points per game for the closing 5 to 6 games of the season. That's really promising. Like, I don't, and he clearly has a great chemistry with Lamar Jackson. So I don't understand why he's one of the more slept on players. He should be starting in your flex every week. He should. He has earned that trust in the last 7 to 9 games that he's played. He's earned that trust. Give him the opportunity. That's all. Like, if you have him, play him. Like, unless you have somebody that's so much better, play him. I can't. I don't know what else to say. Like, everyone asks, is he real? Yes, he's real. He's been doing it for a while. There's still a shred of doubt. I don't know why. He's a big play guy, but he's also a volume guy. He's gotten 4, 5, 6 catches, not including full targets. Maybe it's 6, 7, 8, 9 targets a game in an offense where, not for nothing, Andrews has been a non-factor. Sammy Watkins is a non-factor. Rashad Bateman is still hurt. So Marquise Brown is a really valuable part of this offense. And against a weak team like Detroit this week, he may get a couple big plays, and then, maybe he'll slow down later in the game when things get out of hand if they do. But Marquise Brown is a good player, and I don't know why he's still being put on benches.
Yeah, it's true. He has a massive volume in one of the highest powered offenses in the league. I think at this point he's a must start. And somebody else who's on an offense that's actually been very surprising this year, I want to talk about, is DJ Moore. This wide receiver core with Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, DJ Moore, everybody expected this to be, a split between those guys, or DJ to have the number one, but, Robbie and Terrace to take a certain amount of receptions from him each game. But it's really starting to seem like DJ Moore is getting a massive target share in this offense. And he's starting to creep his way into like top 6, top 7 wide receiver territory for fantasy. So tell me what you think about him.
Yeah, he is. And the most important part you mentioned there is target monster. He's an absolute target monster. This guy just continually gets passes. Like, Darnold and him have something going. They have something going. And another important part you mentioned was Robbie Anderson and Terrace Marshall. So Terrace Marshall is getting, 2, 3 targets a game. Anderson getting really not much. And, it leads to question, they paid Anderson this offseason, or the last offseason. They paid him, and they paid him again. They extended him. Was it worth it? I don't know. It's not that we're not going to go really too far into that, but DJ Moore has a strong hold on the quarterback right now. He is producing every time the ball is in his hands. Every time it touches his hands, he's doing something big. Last night, I don't know if everybody watched, but you watched the Panthers game. There wasn't much to watch except for Sam Darnold to DJ Moore. That was the story of the game last night, and they continue to dominate. Realistically, you look at who they've played so far. They played the Jets, who don't really have great corners, and DJ Moore did well. But then last week, they had a couple DBs out. Lattimore was out, but Moore thrived again. And it really didn't seem like there was anything the Texans could do last night to stop DJ Moore. Obviously, slowed down the second half of the game, which is normal when you have a big guy going out, and that's what we're going to shift to right now. We're going to talk a little Panthers, offense, Chuba Hubbard, and most importantly, the injury to Christian McCaffrey. Not for nothing, once again, I think we have to add Christian McCaffrey to the list with Saquon Barkley of injury-prone guys. Every year there's something. Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. It kind of shows you how running backs are not sturdy. They're not. They don't. You can't put too much stock into a running back where you're putting all your chips on it, right? You need to have backup plans if you're going to do that. And frankly, not a lot of people have rostered Chuba Hubbard. Not really. And if we see McCaffrey, he missed as many games as Barkley last year. McCaffrey missed 14 games. So realistically, we need to have a cuff when we're talking about Christian McCaffrey. Just like we need one with Dalvin Cook, because Dalvin Cook, we know, usually is an injury guy. And it's a little concerning now, McCaffrey. This is 2 years in a row. He had a shoulder thing, an AC joint, which is really tough. And, it's something it's not easy to get over. But a hamstring pull, hamstring pulls are tricky, and there's not a lot of time in an NFL season to get over that.
Yeah, you have to wonder with McCaffrey every season. It's just about when he's going to get hurt at this point. He's obviously, when he's healthy, he's the best running back in football. There's no doubt about it. But it's 2 years in a row now where he's had these severe injuries that take him out for a good amount of time. And, now you have to wonder with Chuba Hubbard, is he going to be thrown into this Christian McCaffrey type role? Mike Davis last season, although he wasn't getting 30 carries a game like McCaffrey did, he still saw a massive volume when he took over McCaffrey's role. So now, with Chuba, you just have to wonder, is he going to be put into that same situation? And, either way, he's somebody you have to target on the waiver wire ASAP, because even with a chance of that happening, he's somebody that you got to stash right now. So, I really like Chuba Hubbard now. It really, really is a major hit that they lost Christian McCaffrey. And I think that's going to hurt their offense a lot. But I think Chuba's going to do a decent job in his place.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head right there. Hubbard is really important to stash. I'm not even stash. You got to start him now. If you have McCaffrey, you're in a bad spot. And most likely, if you have McCaffrey, you're 2-0. He played great 2 weeks in a row. You are in a bad spot right now. You might be 2-0, and you don't have the waiver claim for him. So you're going to need to figure something out. It's a really tough place to be. I know a lot of people are in that place, and it's really hard. But we'll move on a little bit. That Panthers offense and the whole Panthers team looks very interesting, very intriguing. I want to see what they do without McCaffrey, because they did struggle a little bit without him last night. But I want to talk about a couple guys. Some good, some bad. I'm not gonna give it away for him. I'm gonna talk Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett's having a great year, isn't he, Aiden? Tell me about Tyler Lockett's year so far.
Absolutely. I'd have to admit I am a little upset about Tyler Lockett having a good year. I did a fantasy trade before the season started where I gave away Lockett, and now to see him shine the way he shined, it hurts a little bit. But Lockett's been fantastic in this offense. Everybody thought that DK Metcalf would be seeing the massive share of deep volume, and Lockett has just seen all of those big plays, or at least a majority of them. And it brings into question how much DK is going to be used on those types of routes for the whole season. I'm not concerned about DK Metcalf yet, but all I really have to talk about is how impressive Lockett has been. He's just on a new level right now, and you have to wonder with this Seahawks offense that has been so inconsistent over the last couple of years, is this going to last? And right now, I think it's going to. I think he has the volume. He's playing well, and I think it's all coming together for him.
So there's a couple things that make me gear towards, if you have Lockett, sell him. One, his history. Obviously, we know his history. He's a big boomer bust guy. He's not a very consistent wide receiver. Obviously, this year could be an outlier, and he could turn into a consistent guy. That's number one. Two, it's for me when it comes to Tyler Lockett. I think defenses aren't respecting Tyler Lockett so far. I think that's kind of what's happening in a lot of places. It's happening with Mike Williams at the Chargers, is having with Sterling Shepard in New York. Some of these wide receiver twos are playing really, really good football because the wide receiver one's getting a lot of attention. And you mentioned, listen, him and DK are matching targets right now. They are. They weren't week one. They are now. They're matching targets. So it's important to remember who Lockett has been in the past. I would still sell Lockett because you know how history is. History repeats itself. So you got to kind of take Lockett with a grain of salt. If someone wants to buy him from you and they want to pay the price, sell it. Give them. They want to give you a running back 2 for Tyler Lockett with running back 1 upside. Take it. But we're going to move on a little bit. And then we're going to go. I'm going to talk about George Kittle. Aiden, what's your panic level with George Kittle?
If I'm going to put it out of 10, I'm going to say it's about a 6 right now. The volume really hasn't been there, and that means he hasn't been getting open. And this team just has so many weapons across the board with their running backs and their wide receivers. I think this offense all year is just going to be riding with the hot hand every game. Whoever starts off hot, they're just going to feed them. And that brings up some big concerns with Kittle. I think with the amount of injuries he's had in the last couple of years, he has started to fade out of Shanahan's game plan. And it also hurts him significantly that the gameplay isn't tying in either. He hasn't really proved himself as somebody that is deserving of that 10-plus target share that he used to receive. So, there are a lot of concerns around Kittle. I think he can start to play better, but you have to worry about the volume at this point. There's so many weapons in that offense.
Yeah, there's some good and some bad here. I worry about Kittle's volume. That is something I'm concerned about. Deebo Samuel seeing a lot, and really this volume is going all over the place. Going Trent Sherfield, it's all over the place, and that's what Shanahan offenses do. We understand that. Couple things I want to talk about with Kittle. Number one is durability, and we know he's not a durable guy. He's been hurt, a little constantly, frankly, and he's always been a boom and bust guy as well. So we have to understand that about George Kittle. But I will say if there was ever a week to buy low on him, it's now. 2 bad performances, and this week he's got a very porous Packers linebacking crew. And I feel like this week he might have a boom week. Maybe Kittle goes for 100 yards, And frankly, if he doesn't, your 6 may turn to an 8, on the panic meter. Because George Kittle, frankly, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been good. He hasn't. It's kind of just been a really frustrating, start for George Kittle. Aiden, I know you're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but we still see you. You're still good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm back now.
Another part of Kittle too is that you mentioned target share. He's sure handed as it gets, but I have to wonder, and I feel like this is fair. Okay, you can kill me in the comments if you want. Did George Kittle lose a step when he got hurt? Like, he's been hurt constantly, and it's a lot of lower body injuries. Did George Kittle lose a step? Is he not the same guy? I think we got to raise that question because we're going to still see. We're going to still look at it. But when he came back last year after he was hurt, he didn't look great. So the question will remain, is George Kittle the same guy? So we're going to move off Kittle a little bit. Dang, I feel like that's a really good clip. If you guys watch this, you're going to find that on TikTok or something. That was a really nice clip by me. I'm just going to be honest. But I want to move on to somebody who had a bit of a turbulent end of the year last year, and he's in a new spot now. I'm talking about James Conner. Aiden, I'm not one who's trying to predict pace of game, but I think James Conner is somebody I really love this week, believe it or not. Why do you think that is? I'm going to ask you, do you have any reason? Do you know why I love James Conner this week?
I think it's because of their matchup, I'm guessing.
It's a little bit because of their matchup. And the other part, Jacksonville.
Right, yeah. Yeah, their
It's a
matchup is
little bit of part of
amazing.
their matchup, but it's more for game flow. And let me explain real quick. Game flow is really important to remember with a team like the Cardinals because they just jump all over you, especially when you're the Jaguars and you're not good. They may go 14-0, 21-0 in the first or second quarter. It could happen. It very well could happen. And if it does, you got to assume, they're going to run the ball a lot and try to bleed out this clock and, get out of that game because, A, they don't want their guys hurt. D-Hop's already a little beat up. They don't want him hurt. A.J. Green's had injuries in the past. I feel like they will go to Rondale Moore. I feel like they will go to James Conner. They're going to run the ball. And I feel like game script is going to take Edmonds out of the equation, put Conner smack dab right in the middle.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. I think this is a game where they start to lean on some of their younger guys because, like you said, they're a little bit beat up across the board. D-Hop has that rib injury. They're not in a good spot with some of their stars. So I think that what they do, like you said, is they lean on their running backs for the most part. I think they're just going to control this game on the ground. And I think James Conner is honestly, he probably finishes with a touchdown. I'm sure he'll get a couple receptions on top of it. He won't be anything huge. He'll probably be like a good flex play for fantasy. But I absolutely agree with you. Somebody who normally is a non-consideration for fantasy, I think is a flex play this week in James Conner.
Yeah, and one more thing about James Conner real quick is just the fact that there is opportunity here. There's opportunity for people to take their, if you do daily lineups or deep leagues, throw him in there. It might be worth your while. He might be a guy who scores you a touchdown too. Finally, the last guy we're going to talk about before we wrap up the show is Stefon Diggs. Aiden, how do you feel about Stefon Diggs so far this season?
Well, that offense has started off a little bit slow. He was a little bit worse week 1 than he was week 2. But I don't want to panic on him yet. I think that, it just has a little bit to do with everybody. I don't think there's really anything necessarily to blame for that offense starting slow, except just everybody's a little bit rusty. And it may sound a little bit naive, but I just feel like it's going to take a couple weeks for this team to just get things going. And I think probably by around week 4, week 5, him and Josh Allen will both be back into that top tier fantasy playing territory. But right now, they're not in the best spot.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about Stefon Diggs, and I don't think he'll reach the volume of what he did last year. They have 4 wide receivers that are all above average wide receivers. I think Gabe Davis, obviously Diggs himself, Emmanuel Sanders, and they have Cole Beasley. I think all of them are good targets. Singletary's look great out of the backfield, man. He looks fantastic. Really happy about him. I don't think Diggs is going to put up the year he did last year. And if you know me, if you know any of my stuff, my preseason rankings, I had Diggs outside the top 5. Josh Allen has not looked great this year. I think teams have had a full offseason to kind of see the film and see what he's doing differently and kind of figure him out a little bit. Same with Stefon Diggs. If you look at the top 5-6 worst passers in the league, from bottom up, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Allen's in there. That's the problem. He's not playing very well. Some of the lowest graded, passers of the football. So Allen's play has a bit to do with it. Diggs also may not be gaining the same amount of separation. And we have yet to really see too much. It's only, guys, 2 weeks has passed and we're going to week 3, but it's something to monitor because if you're doing fantasy, it's really important that you stay week to week on everything. If you could get a wide receiver 1 package for Stefon Diggs, consider it. I'm just saying, I'm not saying sell. That's not what I'm saying. You can hold Diggs, be really happy. But, somebody offers you a package of a mid-tier running back and a mid-tier wide receiver, a wide receiver 2 and a running back 2. I would consider it. I really would, believe it or not. Don't do it for Josh Jacobs. Don't do it for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Not those kind of guys. But, if someone's offering you Najee and maybe a flex wide receiver play, you take that. I think you have to take it.
I really can't blame you about that. I think this offense, maybe I'm being a little too forgiving, but I think they'll get it together at some point. But you're right. There's a lot of weapons. There's Cole Beasley, who's been receiving, I think, 10-plus targets a game. There's a few guys, a few young studs that could really just receive a lot of the targets this year. and that could be one of those offenses like the 49ers where they're just constantly spreading the ball around. So yeah, it's definitely a situation to monitor for sure.
All right, well, that wraps up our first episode of Fantasy Friday. Usually we haven't been able to get this out to you guys because we talk too much about all the stuff on the fantasy side, but these are our previews for the week. Really quick, if you guys did, if you're just watching the end of this for some unknown reason, or maybe I'll clip this for our TikTok or our Instagram. Start Trey Sermon. It's a good idea. Start Marquise Brown. These guys should not be on your benches. They shouldn't. Stefon Diggs, trade him away if you get the right package. Only if you get the right package. And if someone's offering you something really good for Tyler Lockett, don't blink. Take the trade. All right? But this has been Totally Unbiased. Of course, I'm Nick. That's Aiden. Fantasy Friday. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you